Hello, folks. Welcome to GingerLion's modded Minecraft Let's Play. I'm up to episode 26. Um, so, you catch me in the middle of going to set up something that I can find very useful, a sugarcane farm. If you all remember, I made myself a piston-based sugarcane farm a bit of a while back. It was a little bit of a disappointment to me. So I'm going to make one now using MFR, Mine Factory Reloaded. So, yes, I know I am avoiding the elephant in the room, the discussion of what it is that I'm going to do to move forward with my nuclear reactor project. Don't worry, I have an answer. I've been thinking about it and thinking about it, and came to what I consider to be a pretty clean conclusion, which is this. I know that I can transport the energy from a nuclear reactor wirelessly. Well, not quite wirelessly. Let me. Um, so if I make myself a nuclear reactor somewhere, and I want to get the power from my base to to my base from that nuclear reactor, I've got the usual options. First, I could build it right in my base, and then that's where the power would be. And that would be wonderful, except that given that I'm not going to be able to shield that nuclear reactor, not so much. So what I've decided to do is this. I'm going to create an automated system for charging Lavatron crystals. If you notice there, the Lavatron crystal, when I hover my mouse over it, tells me that it holds 10 million EU, which is, well, that's quite a lot of EU. If I want to, the capacity of an MFSU is 40 million, so I can charge that with 4 Lavatron crystals. That's not a bad answer. That allows me to build my nuclear reactor a long way away. However, I want to build it more than a long way away. In fact, my preference is that if I'm going to make something that has the potential for blowing up quite that explosively, I think what I'm going to do is make it in a different dimension. Which means that I'm going to step into a mod that I haven't played with yet, and that's Mistcraft. And one of the things that I'm going to need a lot of in Mistcraft is paper, so I'm making myself this sugarcane farm. So, I also want to show you, as I head outside, another little modification that I made to my tree farms. Only one of them, actually. Let's see, is it day or night? It's night. Time for me to take a nap. And it's for the exact same reason. It's because I am going to need to get heavily into a paper and ink-based mod. And so I need a lot of paper, and I need a lot of ink. Wow, there's a whole lot of mobs out there today. I guess it's time for me to, do my hunting thing, which is switching into bat form. Now, the other thing that I'm going to need to do, I'm not just switching to a paper and ink-based mod, I'm also switching to working with a mod that's going to be, quite frankly, dangerous. And I don't feel like, despite having a pretty nice sword here, that I am all that wonderfully equipped for dealing with dangers and dangerous circumstances. I can deal with a couple of creepers, obviously not that well, but I'm not armored in any way, shape, or form, because I haven't worked into any of the mods that allow me to be well armored. So, between here and there, instead of doing a huge amount of work on... I hate it when they make giant holes in my landscape. Instead of doing a huge amount of work on the magical-based mod, Thaumcraft 4, in an attempt to get myself those things that I need to make a warding wand, instead I'm going to put some work into modular power suits and make myself a power suit that'll allow me to be well armored. Now, I was telling you about a change that I had made. Wow, so I got myself trapped in a tree. So, remember we were having issues with... I have to manually choose to apply fertilizer to these things, otherwise they use a huge amount of fertilizer? Well, I made myself a little bit of a change here. Because I'm going to need lots of black saplings, and because that's how many black saplings I have at this point, it's not none, but it's not enough that it's overflowing into my system. I set this up differently. Now, I changed the configuration on the export buffer here to run at all times. Then, I made myself a Project Red invert cell, and you'll notice the invert cell, as long as there's nothing applying a signal to this side, to the B side as it were, to the A side, it applies a redstone signal, which turns this off. As long as it has a redstone signal, it's off. So what I did is I made myself a repeater, and I made myself a timer. The timer's set on 15 seconds, the repeater's set on 64 ticks. Effectively what that does is it turns this off for 15 seconds at a time, and then it turns it on for 3, given that 20 ticks occur in a second. 64 ticks, which you can only set it to 16, 32, 64, 128, etc., is just about 3 seconds, a little over. What that does is allows it to fertilize these trees in here and then stop while the harvester does its job. And what I also did is I decreased the number of trees there, because what I really want from these trees is the leaves. I really want the saplings. So the most valuable thing that this farm can do is only produce a small number of logs and a large number of leaves. So let's watch it tick through. There it is, doing some fertilizing. We're getting a whole bunch of leaves and not a huge amount of wood out of the deal. And then the harvester completes its job, and the planter completes its job before this kicks over, which it does right now, and begins fertilizing these trees. So it's a relatively small change, but it has more than doubled the number of saplings that I'm getting out of this deal. So now, let's come over here. I'm going to build myself a little bit of a sugarcane farm. I'm actually going to do it off camera, and then I'm going to come back and show you exactly how it works, because sugarcane farms work a little bit different than tree farms in Minefactory Reloaded. I'll be right back, folks. Okay, folks, I'm in the middle of building this, but I figured I'd give you a quick tour. So, now we're back to, we've discussed this before, but I'm going to make sure everyone's on the same page. The vanilla mechanics for growing of sugarcane is that it must be planted on dirt or sand next to water. Has to be directly adjacent to water. So what I've done is I've kind of tried to set up the most efficient shape that I possibly can. And so what I'm doing is, for example, I know that I can plant sugarcane here already because there's already water. But you'll notice that even if I try, I can't plant it here. That means there's going to need to be water adjacent to it. So every spot where I couldn't plant a sugarcane, I'm going to dig out the sand and place myself a water block using one of the buckets in my inventory. And that will allow me, let me turn back on magnet mode. It's so much easier than jumping in every one of these holes. Again, that's why I use a lot of these. For example, I could have gone and jumped in every single one of those little holes that I made and collected those blocks of sand. Or I guess I could have accepted the fact that I was losing sand, but I like sand. I like all the blocks in this game. And so you guys would see me over and over again jumping in a hole, which is not exactly the best television, as it were. So, anyway, and so what I've laid out is, remember back when I first made my tree farm, I made a whole bunch of these gold upgrades, and I've never used them because I'm not upgrading any of these? Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to plant down a harvester right here. And I'm going to connect it up to the entire system. I'm going to put a chest behind it, just like there's one over there behind this one. And I'm going to wire it into the system. And I'm going to put a gold upgrade in it. And that means it's basically going to cover from this torch to this torch way over here. And all the way back to the edge of the sugarcane farm there. So, now, I'm probably going to disappear. Yeah, I'm going to disappear off camera here, and I'm going to finish laying out this sugarcane farm. Now, we're only growing sugarcane in a completely vanilla methodology here. The only thing that we're doing that's mod-based, as it were, is we're using the harvester to collect them. But that's a pretty significant thing. If you remember the piston-based harvesting system that I developed way back that didn't work particularly well, you'll remember that setting up a system for automatically harvesting and collecting your resources is no mean feat if you're only working with vanilla mechanics. It can be done, don't get me wrong. I could have worked on and perfected that system. I could have accepted some of the losses. I could have designed it in a whole bunch of different ways. But let's be honest, I'm a specialist in mod-based mechanics, not particularly vanilla mechanics. I often watch Daedalus, who is one of the YouTubers who does specialize in vanilla mechanics, and I'm quite impressed with the things that he produces, but they're, you know, not exactly what I want to spend my time working on. So, anyway, I'm going to go back to creating this sugarcane farm. Oh, look, we had our first sugarcane growth over there just while you were watching. That's wonderful. So, I'm going to finish building this sugarcane farm, and then I'll be back when I set it up to be completely automated. See you in a minute, folks. Hello, folks. Well, as you know, I was upstairs building myself a sugarcane farm when I noticed that my trees weren't being harvested. So, I came down here and looked, and I'll be darned, but my entire base is now out of lava. As you know, my base has been running exclusively on lava for a while now, and I've been talking about this nuclear power plant, but I haven't got it into production yet. So, I am going to... First of all, what I'm going to do is switch the configuration on this. Now, remember I had two in here, and then I stole one of them. What I did is I put it back in such a place that it's connected to the entire system, but it's not... It's set up to charge. And the reason for that was this. I sort of worried one of these days. You'll notice, look at the power ticking out of this ender cell right now, this resonant energy cell. It's going to recharge and refill and run everything in my base, which is good because without it, I couldn't even get into this to get to my items. Very important to me. So, I'm going to take myself just a little bit of a detour. I didn't really want to toss that in here. I like my black ender pouch. It allows me to connect to the network. So, now, what is it that I'm going to have to do to straighten this problem out? Well, I'm going to need to go into the end. I'm going to need to collect a whole bunch of stuff. And I'm going to have to move it around. Not the end, Nether. So let me see. I need my pickaxe. Yeah, almost definitely going to need my pickaxe, and I've got a sword, and I've got my crescent hammer, so I should be able to move just about everything I need to. And I'm going to take a stack of cobblestone, and that should do it. Okay, so let's see. I have my fire bat form ready, so I'm going to take a quick trip to the end, and I'm going to... As soon as I get there, I'm going to go find my lava pump and show you what the effect is of it having completed its job. Be right back. Well, here we are, folks, and here is my nether system, and you'll notice that the pump is... that there's absolutely no lava in my tank, and everything here is dry. Now, this, you'll notice I turned on F9 and showed you where the chunk boundaries are. You'll notice that this pump has sucked up all of the lava in that entire area. And that's why my base is now down and dry. So, I am going to take just a couple of minutes, and I'm going to move all this stuff. But first, I'm going to destroy that nitro creeper before he does significant damage to everything that I care about. Okay, now, back to what we were doing. Let's pick up which blocks we can shift right click on and just pick up easily, and the rest we're going to have to use a pickaxe on. Now, remember, when you set up the, I'm going to collect that. Sunstone ore is usually worth having. Okay, now, when I set up my new endothermic pump, I am going to need to set it up at fluid level. So where should I set it up? Well, honestly, I have to say, I really feel like maybe right over here would be a pretty good place after I kill off these things that are trying to attack me, including this here Ghast. You are unwelcome, Mr. Ghast. Yeah, I feel like this area over here should do just fine. It'll get me several more chunks worth of lava, and that's nothing to sneer at. So this is one of the dangers of setting up a lava-based power system for an extremely large and automated base. You end up having the possibility of running out of lava, even if you set up in the Nether, even if you set up a particularly powerful and complicated system for doing that. So, here we go. Sorry, folks, had myself a little bit of a crash. Now, back to what I was doing. Yes. Okay, so now, need to attach a magmatic dynamo, obviously, to the end of this energy conduit. There, that's all connected. I need to connect them together via fluid ducts. You've all seen me do this before. Oops, did that wrong. Just a moment. I need to collect that without breaking it. There we go. Put that back down here. And put my ender tank in. Now, I don't think there's enough lava in that to kickstart the pump, but I'm going to try. Yep, that produced enough lava. The pump is full, the magmatic dynamo is pumping. Oh, yeah, and almost inevitably, there's a huge amount of lava being pumped through this system because it's busy going to fill the various dynamos that I have back in my base. I just need to figure out which direction it is that is in versus out. I'm pretty sure that should fill right now. Let me watch and see what's going on. Pretty sure, yes. This should leave me with a magmatic dynamo that's pumping away as fast as it reasonably can, trying to keep my endothermic pump operating, and this ender tank should be filling with lava as soon as all of the things in my base are recharged, which could take several minutes. Yeah, it's definitely still eating up blocks of lava. You'll notice that there are blocks of stone appearing here. They're also appearing down below, but there's no reason for me to dive down to the lava. So, there we are, folks. That's straightened out. Now, let me head back to my base and make sure there is still power. There is now power being generated, because, well, that was the whole purpose of me doing all of this, was to make sure that there was power being generated. Easy to get lost here in the Nether. I don't want to go anywhere near that hornet's nest. Now, back to my home. I think that it's right up here. But again, it's easy to get lost here in the Nether. There we are, and here's my little side entrance to keep fireballs from damaging my base. Back to my own form. Okay, let me head back to my base, and we shall see if there's now power being supplied. With a little bit of luck, I won't have to go back and flip that ender tank thing. Can't tell yet. Ah, yes. Now, all of these are bright red in color, and while they're not completely full of lava, they have plenty of lava in them. Good. Solves that problem. Now, let me eat a little bit of food. Put away this gunpowder and gas tier and sunstone, all the things that I don't need now that I'm safely back at home. There's power back in my system. And I'm going to come over here. And I used just about... I used 2/5 of the power that this had. And there we are. So now it's set to recharge again, and it will recharge out of the system. And should such an emergency happen again, I have a way of solving the problem again. So now it is nighttime outside. I'm going to get a nap, and then we'll go back to the sugarcane farm that I was working on. So again, let me recap. When you run your base off of lava, it is a wonderful, wonderful thing until you run out of lava, which does happen even if you're using the end as your source of lava. There's no such thing as an infinite supply of lava, at least when you're using pumps. Now, this is part of why I'm trying to switch to a nuclear reactor and various other methodologies for supplying myself with power. You'll notice I have 42,000 oak wood. This may very well soon be turned into charcoal and used to power energy production facilities. I'm not 100% sure yet what my power production facility of the future is, but I'm telling you that it's not going to exclusively be lava, because while lava is a wonderful substance for using to make power, it's not going to be an end-all be-all. If you try to do that, well, I guess you could. I like to build systems that I don't have to babysit. I like to build systems. I like to think that the systems that I build, if I went away for a week and left the game running and came back, that the game would still be running, that all would still be well. Now, at the moment, that's not entirely true, but I'm working my way toward it. I've apparently angered an Enderman who's over there and teleporting. I'm hoping that he'll come back soon so that I can knock him down, because listening to him scream is just annoying. Oh, okay, he's gone. For the moment, at least. Now, I'm probably going to run out of sugarcane before I completely fill my farm up, which is fine. Well, actually, given that my sugarcane, it looks like almost all of it has grown to the height of 2, I'm going to have plenty of sugarcane to do this with. So, now, I'm going to finish setting up this sugarcane farm. You can all see the pattern that I've got it laid out in right now. And once I have it, I'll come back and show you the final automation, like I had promised. Okay, folks, so I have come back out here. I finished up my farm, and we're going to do the connection. So now, what I need to do is I need to get power, and I need to get a liquid duct to that right there. So let's say I'm going to get power from the bottom and fluid ducts from the side. Now that traps me in, so let me dig myself back out before I get myself in too much trouble. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to tap into this power line right here. Now this is one of my other tree farms. This, let me go up and verify. There we are. This is my cyan stained sapling tree farm. Now there's power connections out here. Now I happen to know that this block is going to release some water. That's absolutely fine. Now, theoretically, it would flood the area, but as soon as I put a power conduit in the way, it counts as a blocked block, and no water flows. So that's perfect. Now, I need to get myself a fluid duct. Remember that these harvesters produce sludge, and that's now all connected. So any harvesting that it's done, see, it's doing this, and there's no sludge in the tank. It's working its way. And finally... Look at how much sugarcane it's produced while I've been working. Let me go ahead and connect this import bus to the bottom of this. It's set up to do stacks, and there it's all gone. So now let me put some dirt back in and show you what's going on with the farm itself. So let's just fill in any unnecessary spaces down here. We don't need mobs to spawn under the ground in our various farms. I'm going to cover this up just because I don't like seeing lots of that sticking out. Now, so you'll notice that there are pieces of sugarcane here that are above 1 tall. This MFR harvester is smart enough to know that sugarcane grows from a base of 1, so it doesn't ever remove the bottom one. What it does is every time it completes its 5-tick countdown, let me show you real quickly, not like that, like this, you'll notice it idles for 5 ticks and then works for 1. So what it does is every 5 ticks it checks another block. So it does 4 times a second. It does this, 1 second. Then next second, 1, 2, 3, 4. And it works its way through the entire farm. Now, that's not going to harvest everything super rapidly. Given how many blocks are here, it's possible that some of these will grow as tall as 3, but that's fine, because they'll be harvested relatively quickly. They'll be harvested within a minute or 2 of their full growth, and all of that harvest will show up here in this chest right here. So, I don't need to fertilize this. I don't need to take care of it in any way, shape, or form. I just needed to construct it and supply power, which obviously is an important issue, as we ran out of power today. Supply power to this harvester and pipe away its sludge and the items that it produces. And it's going to just sit here and clear this out. So now, let me go back to our ME system. And take a look at what we have for sugarcane. When I started, I had about 140, 130 sugarcane. I now have 140, and I have the entire sugarcane farm planted out there. So there you go, folks. That is the automation of a sugarcane farm. Now, that allows me to automate the process of making paper, which I think I'm going to go downstairs and do right now. Let me get some sugarcane out of the system. I'm going to need 3. I might as well take a stack. It's easy. Now let me just make sure that I have never taught this how to make sugar. How to make paper. Nope. No recipe for paper. So I'm going to come in here and say 3 sugar makes 3 paper. Encoded and loaded. My system now knows how to make paper, which is a wonderful thing for future recipes. Now, we've discussed that I'm going to be trying to build another age. What that means is I've got to do a lot of exploring of new ages. For those of you who aren't familiar with the Mistcraft mod, basically what the Mistcraft mod does is this. You get these things. For example, I have a volcano biome page and a mushroom island biome page. When I build a new age book, I can put any pages that I would like into it to specify what type of age it's going to be, what type of biomes it's going to have, what type of moon or sun or stars it's going to have, what type of weather it might have, what type of blocks all of the ground is going to be made out of, what type of, whether there's going to be lightning or etc. The problem is I only have 2 pages. If I go over here and look at pages, I've got none. What that means is I'm going to have to start making what are known as random ages, where there's nothing specified. Which means that those ages are probably going to be dangerous. There will be instabilities. There will be hunger issues. There will be nausea issues. There will be all sorts of problems. I'm going to need a lot of paper for that. I'm going to need a lot of ink for that. And I'm going to need some form of protection for that. So what I'm going to do right now is going to get to work on some protection. And for me, I think, given where I am in the game, what mods I have installed, etc. Wow. I don't know what I just did, but there we are. I'd like to turn these all back on, please. There we go. The mod that I think that I would like to work with is Machine Muse's modular power suits. And I could tell you about it, but I think it'll be much easier for me to show you about it. So let's start with a basic machine casing, an electronic circuit, and an emerald. Let's go to our crafting terminal down here and see if I have those items in it. Nope. So now I can make a basic machine casing. Begin. I can make a basic electronic circuit. Begin. And now, perhaps, I can make myself this power armor tinker table. This is how you get started with your modular power suits process. And it doesn't take any like supplies or materials just to get started. So I'm just going to take it and place it down right here. It doesn't need to connect anything. No modular power suits items found in inventory. Make some. That's its way of saying you can't modify a power suit piece until you have one. So let me start with... Let's see, what do I have for armor on right now? Absolutely nothing. So I bet the torso is probably the most useful thing for me to make. Why don't I make them all? That's going to be 2 electronic circuits, 4 electronic circuits, 6 electronic circuits, 8 electronic circuits, and then we make the fist 11 electronic circuits. Well, I happen to have a very powerful and flexible system that will allow me to make 11 of those relatively quickly and easily. I just have to sit here and wait while it does a little bit of crafting, and that'll be fine. So now I know I already have 2. Let's go ahead and make the torso. There's a torso. Let's see if it's finished enough so that I can make a helmet. There's a helmet. There's 2 pieces. That's quick and easy. Let's check for legs. Does it have enough for me to make legs? Does. Now... it's got enough for me to make boots, for sure. And it's got 1. Let's let it craft up 2 more, which is theoretically what it's supposed to be doing. No, it doesn't seem like it's finishing. Well, that's fine. Maybe I miscounted. I need to make 2 more. Begin, please. There we are. And I would like to make the power fist. Those were all cheap and easy. That's probably going to be the last cheap and easy thing that I make in this mod. So now, I have in my inventory all this stuff, and I might as well just go ahead and put it on. Now, so you'll notice it all has E's next to it. That implies that it's equipped. Now, let's start with the torso. The first thing that you need when you're trying to store power, when you're trying to use these, is power to operate various things. For example, if I were to try to install a water tank, it's going to need power. If I want a bulb repulsor, that's going to use power. Cooling system needs power. So the first thing that I think that I need to do is put a battery in it. And I could do basic or advanced, but given where I am, again, given where I am in the game, I think that an elite battery is what I want. And it shows me down here that what I need is an HV capacitor. Well, let's go over here and figure out what exactly an HV capacitor is. It's a Lapotron crystal surrounded by wiring. Do I know how to make wiring yet? I don't. Do I know how to make a Lapotron crystal yet? I do not. So, I'm going to have to teach my systems how to make those things. So, let's get started. Let's start with the wiring. Gold cable and redstone. Let's see if I even know how to make gold cable yet. I've not taught my system how to make gold cable. So let's see. Gold cable. The recipe for gold cable is a cutter on some gold plates, or a metal former in extruding mode on an ingot, or a metal former in cutting mode on a gold plate. Well, we remember that I have some machines downstairs that'll do those exact things. Let me go down and set them up. So, now, what modes are these in? You're in an extruding mode, you're in rolling, and you're in rolling. So this is the one. You're in extruding mode. You already know how to make a gold cable, it says. There we are. It definitely does know how to make gold cable. So let me go upstairs. Well, let me actually take the gold cable out of here and the redstone that I'm going to need. Notice that my systems are still ticking along and active. This thermal centrifuge is still purifying crushed uranium ore. This canning machine, whenever it gets uranium ore, is still making uranium fuel rods. That whole system's ticking away just like it's supposed to, running completely on automatic. I like that. That makes me happy. So, now, I needed to teach this how to make these wirings, as it's called. Well, there is everything that it needs to know to make wiring. Now, the next thing that it's going to have to make is a little more complicated, and that is a Lapotron crystal. So now let me look at what the recipe is for that. Lapis lazuli dust, energy crystal, advanced circuit. Well, let's see where we're at. We already know how to make an advanced circuit, so that's fine. Well, let's see about energy crystals. Well, I have one, and our system knows how to make them. That's wonderful. That makes that easier. Let me actually have it make a advanced circuit so that I have them in my inventory. So that I can, well, that was fast and easy, so that I can go ahead and automate this process. And finally, lapis lazuli dust. Let me just look at what dusts I have. No lapis lazuli dust of any kind in here. So how is lapis lazuli dust made? A macerator can macerate lapis lazuli plate into 1, or a lapis lazuli block into 9. I think to make the process of my automation faster, I am going to cheat this system just a little bit. How am I going to do that? I'll show you. First, I'm going to teach this how to make a lapis lazuli block. And then I'm going to have it make one. So I'm going to have it make 2. Begin. And that's fast and easy because it's all it uses is processor power at that point. Then I'm going to take both of these out. Now I'm going to go downstairs and run one of them through my macerator. The thing is, I could make 1 lapis lazuli dust with simply automating my macerator. I could do the recipe here for 1 equals 1, but each one of this is going to take just as long to make that 9 as it would have taken to make 1. So I now can teach the system that 1 lapis lazuli block equals 9 lapis lazuli dust. That means that while it can only make 9, it can't make 1 if it wants 1. I have a lot of lapis lazuli, or not a lot, but enough of it that I'm pretty sure it's stored in one of these. Let me take a look really quick, just to make sure I'm not causing myself trouble. I have almost 1,400 lapis lazuli, so I don't mind using up a couple of extra occasionally. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to teach this system that this equals this. I'm going to encode it, and then I'm going to take that downstairs and plug it into my macerator. Now, like I said, my system doesn't know how to make 1 lapis lazuli dust, but it sure does know how to make 9 of them. That speeds up that process at the cost of 1 processor tick over here in my crafting CPU. That's just fine. That costs me almost nothing, and gives me a great advantage. Now, let's go ahead and make this Lapotron crystal over here. Goes like this, goes like that, and goes like this. The system knows what that makes. We can clear this out and toss this in here, and now we know how to make a Lapotron crystal. That wasn't really what we were going after. Now, it's a useful thing, but what we were really going after was an elite battery HV capacitor to install in our power armor. So let's go back to HV capacitor. Now, the HV capacitor is 2 wirings and 1 Lapotron crystal. Now, let me just have this make a Lapotron crystal, please. Begin. I only need 1. It's going to take it a couple of seconds. It's got to go through all the various crafting steps. It's got to macerate all the various things that it needs to macerate. That's just fine. And there we are. There's 1 Lapotron crystal. It needs to be surrounded by 2 wirings. Let me craft 2 of these. I don't want to craft 10 of them. They're fast and easy. There's 4. Put the wrong thing in here. Now, I can come over here and teach this, that this and this equals an HV capacitor. And I never have to go through the process of making myself an HV capacitor again. I may need to wait sometimes. I'm still using up all of the resources, but I am making it, I only need 1 for the moment, and there it is. So now, I can come over here to this modular power suits. I can choose you and install. And now I have an energy storage device installed here. Now, IC2 tier. I don't even have IC2 power installed, so I'm slightly concerned that it will only allow me to use IC2 charging devices, but I'm about to go check, and let's say that I want the largest battery possible in my power suits. If you look in the upper left-hand corner, it now says that I have a battery that has a certain amount of power in it. Now, I'm going to check something. I think that if I take this, which has 75K of 500K in it, I think if I put this in this energy infuser, as you see, it charges up. So I can use red power 2, I can use thermal expansion power to recharge my power armor. And I'm going to just let it completely finish charging that up while I come over here and decide if there's anything else that I want to do. As you can see, there's lots of things that I can install: kinetic generators, energy shields, ways to soak up and use up the heat that this whole process creates. I could theoretically put diamond plating or whatnot, but I think I'm going to use energy for my power system. And there's a whole bunch of tools, rototillers and shears. As you can see, this modular power system is, modular power suits is an extremely powerful and flexible mod that's going to allow me to be very well defended when I wander into my Mystcraft ages. So, I'm going to do some more expansion of that suit next episode. Hope I'll see you then.